So, what I wanted to revisit today, I think it's a really important topic to talk about and to really understand the science of cravings and habit change. Some of you may be familiar with this, some of you may not. But I think it's really important to talk about it because as we are making big changes and small changes, typically along that path, the urge to quit comes up, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And that's usually due for in the food department due to cravings, but any habit that we're trying to change, whether it's quitting smoking, quitting drinking, stopping a substance, not eating sugar, not chewing gum, not biting our nails, or fill in the blank, any kind of compulsive or habitual behavior that we engage in, the moment that we try to stop, the cravings to do so, well, maybe not the exact moment, but usually within a day, the cravings to engage in that behavior usually spike pretty dramatically. And there's a science around this, and the name for it is called extinction burst, right? Extinction in behavioral psychology, extinction is stopping something, quitting something, extinguishing a behavior. Like you would extinguish a fire, you're trying to extinguish a habit or behavior that no longer serves you. And the burst is related to the increased desire and craving to engage in that negative behavior after we stop doing it. And because of this extinction burst, many people quit very early on in their attempts to change a habit or eliminate it. And so I'm going to share with you the extinction burst graph because I think it's just so helpful in terms of understanding what you're in for when you try to change a habit, and then what you can expect and how long does it last and all these different things. So if you look at this graph, you'll see that this level is like the level of craving you have to engage. I like the gum chewing example. I feel like it's pretty neutral, but fill in the blank. It could be quitting sugar, stopping smoking, not drinking, fill in the blank with any habit that you want to change. Your level of desire to engage in the behavior before you try to stop, this is the initial behavior response frequency in this graph. You'll see it's kind of steady from one day to the next, pretty steady. Then it says here, right, reinforcement removed. The reinforcement is the behavior that's giving your brain some kind of hit, whether it's of dopamine, whether it's a relaxation response, some effect that happens in your brain when you engage in the behavior. So when you decide you're stopping that behavior or habit, here it says reinforcement removed. We're stopping, we're removing the reinforcement that your brain is getting. And what happens? There's a huge spike in the desire to engage in that behavior. So the desire before you try to stop is here, right? At kind of a middling level. After you try to stop, it spikes dramatically. And this is the point where most people renege, right? Where they break their commitment to themselves, where they fall back and fall off. We all have had this experience of committing to doing something January 1st. And by January 3rd, it's done, right? We're no longer doing it because it feels like it's too hard or impossible. And why is that? Because the cravings, the desire to engage in that behavior is at a level that we may never even have experienced before. This is the extinction burst. And why does this happen? For the most part, it's because our brains just want more of whatever they've been getting. And so this is a sign of withdrawal from a substance or a process addiction or some other behavior or habit that has been doing something for us on a neurological level and giving us something. And our brain is kind of freaking out and saying like, wait, give it to me. I'm missing it. I'm missing it. And so those cravings get really high and most people break at this point. And here's the interesting and powerful information. If you can make it through these initial craving spikes, the extinction burst, you will see that the desire to engage in the behavior or the substance starts going down, 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 and pretty dramatically to a point where there's almost no desire to engage in that habit or behavior or have that substance of choice anymore. So if you can make it through this burst of cravings, it will get better over time, and then it will be almost nothing. Now, spontaneous recovery, this is when you have a temporary spike in cravings after a behavior has already been extinguished. And this can happen for a variety of reasons: fatigue, stress, hunger, like illness, things, unpredictable hormonal things, things that we may not be able to pinpoint. But again, the desire to do it is never at the level of the extinction burst. And as long as you don't engage in that behavior, it goes right back down, as long as you don't reinforce it. So this is the mistake that people make, is that they quit when these cravings spike because it feels like the only way to get rid of the craving is to engage in the behavior. But like, what I like you to remember is imagine, or think about, I should say, is that imagine like a toddler has a tantrum. If you give in to the toddler when they have a tantrum, then the toddler learns to have tantrums. Like, that's how I get what I want. I throw a tantrum, I get what I want. This extinction burst is like a tantrum in the brain. It's the brain equivalent to that. And so when we give in to extinction burst, when we give in to that powerful craving, our brain is like, okay, I see how it works here. So every time we try to quit, then we're going to have this extinction burst. So the only way out is through. Once again, the only way to overcome these cravings is to not reinforce them, to continue with our intention and our commitment to this behavior change no matter what, because it will dissipate with time, and then the brain stops throwing tantrums. So I hope just looking at this graph gives you a framework that in those moments when you're really struggling, you really want to make that change, just picture that downward spiral. You know that you're having the spike if you're having intense cravings, and just imagine that downward spiral, not a spiral, the downward slope to the graph, as long as you don't reinforce the craving by giving into it. Okay. Do we have questions